Alright guys, now that we have the brake clutch pedal assembly off of the 1992 Ford F-150, and I do want to make a quick note that I did take off the master cylinder, which does look original. You do see the Ford component there, and you can also tell due to all this corrosion that it doesn't look like it's ever been off the vehicle. As you can see, this seal here was leaking in this seal, and the piston's just supposed to go in and back out, and there was some up and down play, some excessive up and down play. A little bit's okay, but that caused this to leak. They will leak naturally, but over time, especially if you have play in the pedal assembly. And what ended up happening is whenever the clutch was stepped on, this whole component over here would shift back and forth, and this there was a nub that came off of that. Let's see if I can find that. Oh, here it is. So this portion right here, let's see if I can get that to focus in. This nub right here was coming off that, and what happens is the clutch piston rod is attached onto that component, and that goes through the firewall right next to the brake booster, and the brake booster is obviously right here. And actually I have this whole system down a little bit. It's more like that when it's hooked up, and these 4 holes are actually the brake booster, so you got to push the brake booster back to get that. And there's also steering wheel linkage that goes right here that sort of obstructs your capability of taking it out. So there's just a small linkage there for the steering wheel that you need to take off in order to pull this thing out. So anyways, I had confirmed that this was leaking and this was the problem. So the root cause of the issue was the play in this portion right here, just the shifting back and forth over time ended up causing the issue. And as you can see, this was worn out, and that was also causing excessive play, and this was leaking onto the clutch safety switch. And if the clutch safety switch has too much corrosion on it, because the clutch safety switch is literally attached right here, and what I ended up doing to confirm that was the issue, obviously I cleaned up the clutch safety switch that I took off of here, and I can insert a picture here and you'll see the picture. So I cleaned that up, and then I installed it back in the car, and then I tried using my thumb, and I shifted the safety switch into the on position, or the connectivity position, as if the clutch was pushed in, and it started up every time right away, but it wasn't doing that before I cleaned it. So I could just clean the clutch safety switch and put it back in, and I'm sure the truck would be running, but the same thing would happen again, obviously, because of this. And this hose, you don't need to replace the hose. Make sure the hose is good. And this is actually the part that goes into the slave cylinder. A lot of people don't know how to take that off. Just take a screwdriver and push it in on each side. Push it in there, push it in here, go in a star circle, and all of a sudden it'll just pop off. So that's real easy. Usually people can't figure out how to get this side out of the master cylinder, and really to get that out of the master cylinder, I have just the small little pin. Oh, here it is. This small little pin, just take that out, and that comes right out of that hole right there. So let's go ahead and take this thing apart, and I'll show you more about what I'm talking about. So be careful, this thing will pinch your fingers real good, so you know I saying real good like I'm Southern or something. You know, us Cali boys don't really talk like that. You know, I saw some Southern guys in the YouTube videos explain part of this process, But you know, I'm pretty mechanically inclined. I was a technician for 6 years, so all this stuff comes pretty natural to me. And I'll show you a fix that I did that I haven't seen yet, but it seems to be like a better option than Jimmy rigging it with a few different ways that other people did. So this slides out just like this here. And what I ended up doing is take this here, take that off, make sure you don't break these plastic pieces, is this was oval shape. See, the work's already done here. So what I ended up doing was actually grinding out a perfect circle here. Instead of adding something or coming up with something, I wanted to make sure that this piston rod, as it went through here, it was actually shifting and moving, causing a lot of play in the clutch. So what I ended up did is I just made the circle perfect to make that worn out metal portion perfectly circle all the way through. So obviously if I just stuck the rod through alone, it wouldn't work. So what I ended up doing is I went to a department store, hardware store, and I found this steel piping with a line cut through it, and it ended up coming stock about 3 times this length. So I ended up just measuring out a good portion that was equivalent to the plastic flange that came out of here. And let's see if I have that plastic flange. I do, it's right here. So this flange is completely worn. That portion right there, let's see if we can get it into focus here. That was the main issue causing all the play in the pedal assembly. So that went into this position right here, and it was causing this whole thing to shift around. And I don't know why they put this cheap crappy part in the Ford. And that used to be the same diameter. This used to be the same diameter as that. But when I took it out, it was all, you know, jacked up and oval. So I got this and I cut it to the right size, and it fits just perfectly in there. And so when I have it, and of course this portion fits into this portion a little bit, so you got to make sure it's the correct length, right? And this will actually stick out a little bit. Oops, I dropped it. So this was the solution to all my problems. Obviously there is an aftermarket solution. Remember this rod that I took out? This rod usually had that nub that I told you I took off, right? So this used to be in it like this, and then this went through the master cylinder piston rod, or the clutch master cylinder piston rod. So I took that out just by drilling it and punching it out. And so the reason I did that is because online there's an aftermarket linkage that you can add to this. And I haven't got the clutch master cylinder yet, but essentially you cut this portion off and you attach through an Allen wrench, you know, basically piston that, you know, sits on this rod. So you cut that off, and it's like a ball and socket with just, you know, a high grade steel bolt that goes through there into this portion. And if I need, once I get that, once I you know, install it, if there's any play there, I might figure out a way to make sure that there's no wiggle with that bolt in there. Yeah, so that was the problem. So I just expanded the hole, and I'm going to put this in there. You know, you could, you know, put some JB weld to hold this firm, because the piston rod is just going to be here, and I'm not sure if this will wear out, but my experience tells me that this is going to be a lifetime fix. This was the old part. This was what was causing all the play in the clutch and probably contributed to the you know, the reduced life of the clutch master cylinder. So replacing this, replacing the clutch master cylinder. Once I get the linkage, I'll add the video. And one last note, I'm going to add some grease to this component here, so that when I'm pressing the pedal, it's nice and smooth. And also I might even put some, you know, plastic coat on this or spray paint it. I haven't decided yet. But anyways, there you have it. Okay guys, slight problem. This was the stock piston rod. As you can see, this end is shaped funny, and this component right here did not want to fit in there. As you see, it's circle, and it didn't want to fit on there. So this came off the stock one. I don't know how it got bent, but anyways, I had to cut the tip off. I verified that this fit pretty snugly down there. As you can see, I tapped a little hole so that this nub goes right over that, and I can screw it down. It's going to be secure. It's not going to slip off, and then my clutch goes bad. So yeah, just a little bit of extra work. And to get this piston rod out of the old master cylinder, look at this thing. I destroyed it. I literally had to cut the front of it off to get the piston rod out. But I did it, and it fit the aftermarket one, so I'm happy. Okay, here we are several years later, and I'm taking this video as kind of closure for the YouTube video that I'm making right now that you guys probably just finished watching. So we have the clutch pedal here, which goes into where that white piece of plastic is on the bar across, and then it pops out up there. There's that piece with the metal piece on the inside, and when I step on that, what happens is this lever right there ends up, let's go ahead and get the light away from it so it can focus. So it ends up pushing that portion in. Let's see if I can do it so you guys can see. All right, and I'm on a hill, so I don't necessarily want to engage it, but that right here is the clutch safety switch, which is an electrical signal that tells whether or not the clutch is engaged. So it'll block the ignition module if it doesn't sense that it's engaged, so that, you know, in a manual, it doesn't, you can't just start it up and it's in gear and it, you know, runs over somebody or something. So other than that, we got that aftermarket piece right there, which when I press it in, it is a ball and socket joint. So when we press it in like this, it gives a little bit of flex so that it pushes the piston rod completely in, as opposed to torquing it so that the clutch slave cylinder starts leaking. So it hasn't started leaking, and it's literally been like 3 or 4 years since I've made that video that you just watched. And yeah, everything is still working. Pretty crazy. Yeah, I'm happy with it. All right, guys, hopefully that helped some of you in your journey, and I wish you guys luck.